All right. So I do not even know. Every time I get up here, I notice that I want whatever happened before or progression to continue. And thank you so much for that worship, for that communion. I know Sean usually cries, and I'm going to try not to. This week, we're going to be talking about the wilderness. We're going to look at Deuteronomy, and when Moses is talking to the Israelites as they're about to go into the promised land. And he's asking them, right, to remember the challenges they had. And we're going to talk about that. When we started this series early on, Sean mentioned all the statistics about revival starting to happen in the world. And he challenged us to really be ready and be equipped so that we could prepare the next generation, right, to be in the trenches for Christ. We're going to look at that today. We're going to look at those words that Moses gave and what Christ calls us to do. And we're that training ground in the wilderness, the challenge, the provisions, and the blessing, and remembering the lessons that we were taught. I can't do that in any better way than to bring up some props. Now, this is important because Shane, could you come up? Dom warned me, do not bring up the props that you brought up last year, which was me. I had put all my clothes in chicken poop, and I smelt really bad, and I brought a bucket full of manure, and I stood in it, and when that happened, it stunk up the church, but I got the point across. So today, I've got a McDonald's bag. It's not poison ivy, but it symbolizes poison ivy, and that's gonna be really important. I've got a bucket, and if you can kind of see, there's a line inside that bucket. This is for vomit. Don't be grossed out yet. And then we've got a bike, and it's an interesting story, and it happens, not this bike, but it happens about, I'd say, 20 years ago. So Shane and I, obviously, God provided us as almost manna, like when the Israelites had to eat manna in the wilderness, to Sean. You see, Sean was excited about a race, an adventure race. He got to bike for a distance. He got to run for a distance. And not only that, he got to swim, run through mud, do all kinds of things. So if you know Sean, he's got to win at everything. He's got to be top, number one. So Shane and I, being the friends we are, decided that we would help train him. We were by his side. Do you have a mic? Because yeah, right here. Now, Shane, last time he spoke was at my wedding, and it was a 45-minute best man speech, so I'm not giving him the mic yet.
That's not the story today.
That's not the story, but here is the quick story. Sean, he is working out. He's lean, he's cut, he's mean, he's running. He's trying to run faster than anyone else. He's challenging himself every day to run faster and faster and faster. He's biking nonstop. He's got this mountain bike that he borrowed from someone, and he's fixing it up. It's getting going. He's got a team of 2 other people, and he's concerned that maybe they're not doing it as well. He's got to win. Now, in this, he's putting himself in the wilderness. It is not easy. It is hard. He's eating correctly. He's doing all these things, right? He starts to struggle. He starts to have doubts. He starts to have temptation. We don't know this. He's not communicating this to us. This is 100% true.
Don't worry, Sean, I'll fill in the gaps.
So, as you can imagine, this body is not made to run. So, whenever he would go run, Shane and I are behind him. Come on, Sean, let's go. You can't give up. You got to keep going. He's like, shh, be quiet. This is my time. And I'm like, Sean, do not give up. He's like, I can't keep going. You can go. Shane, he's like a taskmaster. You get going. And then all of a sudden, on one of our runs, 95 degrees, it's hot. What starts happening? Hello? How do I turn this on? You can't silence us. What starts happening, Shane?
All right, Chuck, hold on a minute. Let's not get too far here.
Not 45 minutes, Shane.
I want to paint you a picture of what this is. As guys, right? We're all young guys. We're all doing life together. We're playing video games together. We are doing life. And Sean comes up to us. He's like,
Why
hey,
did I give him the mic? Go ahead.
I'm doing a triathlon. He's like, you guys want to support me? And in our hearts, and I don't want to throw this term around loosely, we tell him, Sean, we are going to support you. We are going to live vicariously through you. And I'm serious. Some of us can't run at all, right? And the others, I got like a 10-minute mile in me, right? And Sean is like, Shane, I am pushing to break the 5-minute mile for 3 miles consecutively. And I'm like, this is impossible. And Sean's like, Shane, I'm gonna breathe. This is how you have to do it. You take a split step, you breathe this way. Shane, I gotta wear the right socks. I can feel it if I wear the wrong socks. Right? Now, if this just was a regular guy going through a mud run, I don't care. But this is my buddy Sean. And this is the guy that can beat everybody. And I'm like, I'm gonna get behind my friend. Sean, I'm gonna do this with you. I am gonna train with you. And I'm gonna sacrifice whatever I can to help you be successful. Because we are doing this together, because I am never gonna get out there and do this. I'll never be successful at this. I'm gonna take my bike, and we're gonna go out 3 times a week so that you can run. And I did. And I would ride my bike, and Sean would run next to me, and he would be telling me all the science the whole way. Well, one of these 95-degree days, I show up to pick up Sean. And he's like, oh, he was all surprised. I didn't think you were coming today. I'm like, we've done this for the last 2 or 3 weeks. I'm like, you've rehearsed your breathing, your steps, everything. He's like, well, I guess we'll go. I'm like, what do you mean? You're going. Like, we're doing this together. I've been sacrificing. Chuck's been sacrificing. We start running. He starts running, and he is just slugging. Sluggish. I'm like, dude.
Slowing up by the foot.
We stop at the corner. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? What is going on here? This is not what we trained for. He's like, Shane, I didn't want to tell you this, but I stopped, and I got a Big Mac on the way home. He's like, and I can't move. He's like, I really feel sick. I'm like, you told me for 3 months you were not allowed to eat any of this. He's like, Shane, I don't know what to tell you. I'm like, we're not stopping. You're gonna keep going for your 3 miles. I don't care what happens. So we keep running. Within a couple minutes, he tails off into the neighbor's bushes. We have a bucket to symbolize what happened.
Very much so. Now, it didn't end there, because that was the moment of his doubt. But he rebounded quite well. And what happened is, asked me, he's like, I have to pay an entry fee to get in here. And I said, don't worry about it. John and I have this taken care of. We have a job in North Attleboro that if you go and you landscape this, we won't pay you by the hour. We'll give you the whole profit. Remember this, John? You do remember this. See, he's shaking his head. And I'm like, don't worry. There's these 2 mulch beds in back of the parking lot. It's just overgrown. You have just got to clean it out. He's like, all right, another 95-degree day. He's cleaning out. He's sweating. He's wiping his hands. He's wiping his arms. He's itching his legs. He's got his shirt off. He's itching. He does everything. The next day, we walk in, Shane and I. We're like, there's only 2 days left to the race, Sean. 2 days left. We're ready to go. We walk in there. He's got his basketball shorts on. He's like this. He's got towels wrapped around his face, his arms. He's got oozing stuff coming out of him. Apparently, I didn't know this, but now this is wisteria, but it symbolizes poison ivy. And now he wants to give up. He's like, I don't know if I can do this race. Shane and I were like, no, you're doing this race. You're gonna do it. Lo and behold, on that day, he shows up. People are avoiding him like a leper. He goes, he does the race. He beats there were 2 categories. There were professional teams, and there were like regular people like Sean. Sean's team defeats everyone as well as 5 professional teams. Gets 3rd place. And he's like, we would have won if it weren't for that one guy on my team. He was a little slower on the bike. And I'm like, are you kidding me? They're calling everyone up to the podium. And the guy's about to shake his hand. He's like, I'm not touching you. And then Sean's like, refuses to go to the podium. I did not get 1st place. I do not want the medal. That's true. The blessing, right? When we don't give up, there's a blessing. And then we're equipped. Now, I guarantee you, I know what he's equipped for. He's never going to do any landscaping again. He's never going to allow us to train him, and he's not going to eat at McDonald's. But today, we're going to talk about the challenges that the Israelites had and how that applies to your life. If you're able, please stand for the reading of God's word. Shane, did you forget what you're reading? All right. Okay, I get it. Red button? Orange. Just take it. Awkward moment. Go ahead.
Okay. Good morning. Be careful to follow every command I am giving you today, so that you may live and increase and may enter and possess the land the Lord promised on oath to your ancestors. Remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness these 40 years to humble and test you in order to know what was in your heart, whether or not you would keep his commands. He humbled you, causing you to hunger and then feeding you with manna, which neither you nor your ancestors had known, to teach you that man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. Your clothes did not wear out, and your feet did not swell during these 40 years. Know then in your heart that as a man disciplines his son, so the Lord your God disciplines you.
Thank you. You can all sit. I want to go over this. And, we start with a funny story of Sean, half of it which was true, half of it which was made up in perfect Chuck and Shane style. I've lost my glasses, so I can't see anything. Hold on. But as we go over the story of the Israelites, You figure, and I want you to think about this, they've been wandering through the desert for 40 years. And they've left the land of Egypt 40 years before. Now that was supposed to be a pretty quick entry into the promised land. But because of their own moral choices, their own, the physical challenges, it took 40 years that they walked through the wilderness. And when you think about that, just, you've got hundreds of thousands of people leaving Egypt. They had multiplied in Egypt. And they had been in slavery for 400 years. And those were amazing challenges. But they pined for freedom. And then the Lord rose up Moses out of his own exile, out of his own hiding place, and called him to lead them out. And then they leave. And I'm sure that was joyous. But then they enter into the wilderness and they meet some challenges. Just think alone of a people that they were not armed. They were not a military. They're vulnerable. There's men, women, children, the elderly, and they're wandering. And if you think about Egypt, you notice on the east and the west, there are deserts. It's not a place you want to go through. It's dry, it's arid, lack of food. It's that wilderness. And then you think about what they start going through. And just like us in our wilderness, when I talk about our wilderness, we are all going to struggle with things in our lives that are not going to be easy, right? But people, when we're in those places, focus on the wilderness. We focus on the struggles. And we just want to take one step in front of the other. And we don't always have our eyes lifted high. So they're going through this and they start to doubt. And they start to grumble and they start to rumble. And they're like, hey, I want to go back. We were better off in Egypt. We were better off in captivity. We were fed there. We had roofs over our heads. Right? And then they start to doubt Moses. They start to doubt God. Is God, did he really do this? Is this what we were supposed to do? Even though we heard from him? Is this what we were supposed to do? And then they start worshiping false idols, right? Pagan gods. And they get led astray. And then all of a sudden, that wilderness that was only supposed to take a few weeks takes 40 years. But along that way, right, what the enemy meant for bad, God means for good. So all of a sudden, God, in that wilderness, is providing for them, providing bread and quail and food and water from solid rocks. And he's providing. These are miracles that are happening, and they're real to those people, and they're seeing it. And still, sometimes they're doubting, and they're grumbling, and they're not seeing the provisions in the wilderness. But in that, God teaches them that you will not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. And finally, as this wilderness goes on, right, you arrive at the gates of the promised land. Now, Moses has been guiding them this whole time. And he's looking over the promised land, and he starts to tell them, this is what the promised land is going to be like. And he starts going through the wealth of it and the blessing of it and everything that they're going to have. But he gives them a warning. And he starts to talk about, do not forget the wilderness and the lessons that were taught in that wilderness. Do not forget it. It'll lead to your destruction if you forget it. right? All that wealth and that life and having a roof over your head and all the good things that are gonna happen to you, all of a sudden you're gonna start thinking it's because it's the work of your own hands. And you're gonna forget the lessons of the wilderness. And if you do that, that's gonna lead to your destruction. So when I look at that story, I think about our lives. No matter what, no matter who you are, no matter how long you live, you're gonna have a wilderness in your life if you're not gonna have multiple wildernesses. And even that, you may have small wildernesses every day that you've gotta go through. But in those moments, you've got choices to make. Just like the Israelites had. Are you keeping your eyes on God? Or are you keeping it on the struggles you have, on the wilderness? And it gets deep sometimes, and it gets hard, and it hurts. And there's pain that just doesn't go away. I remember in my life, when I was in my 20s, going through horrible depression, horrible anxiety, where I couldn't even go to work, where my parents had to come live with me. I was 25 or 26 years old. And I was just focusing on that wilderness. And every thought that came into my head was simple. Every doubt, is God really there? What is God doing? I'm gonna end up homeless. I can't even work. I'm gonna lose my mind. And I think about those people in the wilderness, in the desert, going to the promised land. They had already been told that the promised land was theirs, and they were doubting. A lot of us are going through a tough time, and we don't know what the promised land is. But we're keeping our eyes on the struggle, and we're not looking for the provision that God is giving us. God provided for me during that time. He gave me friends who only pointed me towards God. You know what he gave me in that time? Youth group. I started serving Tuesday nights. I couldn't go to work. I couldn't do anything. I struggled to get out of bed. I had friends who would come and drag me out of bed. But I would go to youth group every Tuesday night. And only on that Tuesday night did my cloud lift. Only on that Tuesday night did I feel the Spirit on me. And by serving and giving myself to others, God was equipping me. And I started looking for that provision. In your wilderness, there is always provision. Get your eyes off the struggle. Get into the Bible. Get into the Word of God. There's going to be a blessing. I guarantee you there's going to be a blessing. I came out of my depression. It was hard work, but it wasn't my work. It was God who provided. There's going to be a blessing. Start praying for the blessing while you're in the wilderness. Do it. Look for the provision. Have gratitude for the provision that God gives you. Last summer, I don't even know, where's my wife? She's not here. She's gone. She took off. I mean, she didn't take off. She's probably in the nursery. But last summer, you know, I've spoken to you guys about the struggles my family has had. And you know, my daughter being addicted to drugs, that's been a 7-year wilderness. 7 long years, and it didn't go the way we planned it to go. She's homeless. She lives on the street. She's addicted to the point of, that's it for now. So my wife and I, nonstop, praying. I mean, it was hard. Sometimes I'm on my knees crying, bawling my eyes out, my wife as well. Like, what is going to happen? How do we protect the little ones? Why isn't this stopping? And God provided. Every single time. Not the way I wanted it to be, but what I needed and I didn't know. That's a big one. We look for the provision that we want. God gives the provision that we need. I want you guys, you gotta hear that. And that, if you start looking at it, when the Israelites were in the desert, they were humbled because they were looking for a pagan god. They were looking for an idol. They were looking for the things that they could touch and feel instead of looking for the faith and the things that God, the everlasting God, is going to provide. God gives us what we need, not what we want. But we have to be open and we have to be humble. That lesson was taught to them in the desert. God taught them through their rebellion. God taught them through their grumbling and rumbling. God taught them through their sin, but they eventually had to be open to it. You have to be open. So I will tell you, look for the provisions, have gratitude, and pray for the blessing that's going to come. So last summer, or 9 months before last summer, we find out that my daughter's pregnant. She's living on the streets. She's addicted to drugs, active every single day. And it would have been very easy for my wife and I to take the easy way and say, oh my God, we can't bring this child into this world and talk to her about options. But my wife and I sat and we said, no way. Like, we're going to encourage her to have this child. We're going to put our money where our mouth is because this is what we believe. We believe in life. And that child's a blessing. You get that word? Blessing. It's not the blessing maybe we would have at first said was for us. But that is the blessing of life. So we go through this whole process. And on one morning, we get a call 3 months before the baby's supposed to be born. And Sydney's gone into a coma. And she's going to be rushed to the hospital. And we don't know if she's going to live or die. We don't know if the child's going to live or die. My wife got on a plane right away. And she flew down there. And Sydney was in a coma for a week. The baby was delivered. And that baby's in the NICU and fit in the palm of my hand. Feet here, head here. I'm crying. I'm like, I got joy, right? And my wife spent like pretty much 2 months, the whole summer, down there. And she came home. We went on a little vacation. But 2 weeks after that child was born, my daughter left the hospital and never went back. And my wife was there in the NICU, and I would fly down once in a while. My kids would go with Shane and the Smiths and torture them, which was kind of fun. But there was that one time, right at the end, there's 2 weeks left about, and Jacob, one who wrestles with God, that's his name, right? Jacob. My daughter picked that name. I don't know why. Jacob, one who wrestles with God. That kid wrestles. And he's in that NICU, and he's got tubes, and he's got everything, and he's gaining weight, he's doing well. But as much as he's doing well, there's a deadline coming. How are we going to get custody of this child? And throughout, I got to tell you, God is providing in amazing ways, but that final 2 weeks, he showed up in a way that was like it was a boxing match against the enemy. Like, I'm talking holy haymakers, man. You'd get hit with a jab, and God would come around and plow through the enemy. I'm not kidding you. I'm not playing with you. That's the way it was. And we're going down there, and Misty and I'm talking on the phone, and she's like, Chuck, when you get down here, we got so much work to do. We've got to find Sydney. We didn't even know where she was. We got to go on the street, and we got to find her. And finding her means tracking down drug dealers, tracking down people, tracking down steps where she's walked. And we go there. And I don't even know how we're going to find her. So the mornings until visiting hours are spent on the street looking for her. And the whole goal is to get a paper signed that she says, you have caretaker rights to take care of this baby. DCF, because we're in Massachusetts and they're in Texas, is saying, no, we have to put the child in foster care. And we've been there the whole time with that child. And I'm telling you, that's a wilderness. And you love that child. And you know the best place for that child is with us. And we don't know what's happening. And we don't know what is going on. And we're just relying on God. So we get there, we're looking, we're on the streets, and we're spending the afternoon with the baby as long as we can. And there's a woman there, she was the social worker, and she is a Christian. And she is hardcore devoted to Christ. And at one point she meets us in the hall and she says, you want this baby? We're like, yeah. She goes, do you have the room ready for the baby? And we're like, yes. My wife had already set up the nursery, the clothes is there, everything, like it is good to go. Yes, but we don't have the paperwork, we don't have anything, and we can't find our daughter. And when we find our daughter, we don't even know if she's gonna say yes. So we're like, yes, we want the baby. She's like, I will not release this baby to any other person because that is not a safe situation, and I have the power to do that. So we're like, bang. Just because an hour before DCF had been telling us, no, we can't give you that baby. When that baby's released, that baby's got to go to foster care unless you get this one piece of paper signed. The only reason we knew about that piece of paper is because Jess had a friend that she just so happened went to a meeting, had no idea why she was meeting with him, that did exactly that. That's God's provision. We didn't know it at the time, and that person had given us all the information we needed. But now we got to find her. That afternoon, or the day after, we find her on the street just wandering. Give her a hug. The only reason we found her is because we met with her drug dealer. And if you're a father who's going to meet with a drug dealer to find his daughter, that's pretty rough, because you kind of want to punch him right in the face as hard as you can and then kick him in the groin. Sorry. But that's what I was thinking. So we find her that day. She says, can you bring me to the laundromat to clean my clothes? So we're like, okay, God's providing a laundromat. You don't know what God's going to provide. So we meet in the laundromat, and we're cleaning her clothes, and we're cleaning her drug dealer's clothes. And we're talking to her about the baby. And she says, no, I will not have you sign it. Which, of course, I flip out. And then I need to go apologize to my daughter for flipping out. Because God calls me to ask for forgiveness. Which makes no sense to me in that moment. The next day, she meets with DCF, and DCF tells her, you're never going to have this baby, so you better do something quick. That afternoon, she signs the paper. And then we fly home, and a week later, we get a call, you got to come pick up this baby. And we didn't have the money for that flight, but Dom did. That's a community. That's a church. That's God providing when you don't even know. What about you? Now, I get to go home every day to my wife and that baby, and that's our blessing. That is our blessing. Jacob is our blessing every single day with our children. And it's not always easy. But that child, I'm going to be 70 when he's 18, by the way, and that's a blessing. But he's with us. And we continue to pray for our daughter. And we continue to hope for her. And I don't know where that's going to lead to, because that wilderness hasn't gone away. But you know what? We're looking for the blessing. We're praying for the blessing. We're looking for the provision. I don't know what your wilderness is, but you've got one, or you're gonna have one, or you pass through one. That wilderness, when you find that provision, when you pray for that blessing, realize that that wilderness is not always going to be for you. That wilderness is where you are going to be equipped. And what you are being equipped for is not for you. It is so that you, amen. It is so you can pour into the next generation. This life is not yours. You've given it to Christ. That wilderness, turn it for good. Be equipped. That's for the next generation. Be grateful of the blessing. Never forget the wilderness. Never forget the struggles.